Sophia was the kind of person everyone believed had it all together. At just 25, she had a promising career in graphic design. Here's a motivational story about a young woman who overcame adversity and found purpose in her struggles. Sophia was the kind of person everyone believed had it all together. At just 25, she had a promising career in graphic design, a close-knit group of friends, and a smile that seemed to brighten even the dullest of days. But beneath the surface, she was crumbling. Life had not been kind to her in recent years. Her father, her greatest source of encouragement, had passed away suddenly 2 years earlier. His absence left a gaping hole in her heart and her confidence. Her once strong bond with her mother had become strained, as grief made it difficult for either of them to communicate. To make matters worse, Sophia had recently lost her job at a prestigious design firm due to budget cuts. Despite her talents, the constant rejection from other companies made her question whether she was even good enough to continue pursuing her passion. One night, as Sophia lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the weight of her struggles pressed down on her chest. "Maybe I'm not cut out for this life," she whispered to herself. "What's the point of trying if everything I do ends in failure?" The next day, she found herself walking aimlessly through the city, hoping the fresh air would clear her mind. Her feet led her to a small park, where she sat on a bench, tears streaming down her face. As she stared at the ground, an elderly man, with a kind face and a cane, approached her. "Are you all right, young lady?" he asked gently. Sophia hesitated before responding. "Not really. Life just feels too hard sometimes." The man nodded knowingly. "I've felt that way many times in my life," he said, as he settled onto the bench beside her. "But let me tell you a story." Sophia wiped her tears, curious, despite her despair. The man began, "When I was your age, I was a mountain climber. I was obsessed with reaching the highest peaks, not just because I loved the thrill, but because it made me feel alive. One day I set out to climb a mountain that many said was impossible to conquer. The journey started off well, but halfway up, a terrible storm hit. I was cold, exhausted, and completely alone. Every step felt like it would be my last, and I seriously considered turning back. I thought, why am I doing this, or what's the point?" He paused, his eyes distant, as if he were reliving the memory. "But then I remembered something my mother had told me when I was a boy. When you don't know why you're climbing, remember who you're climbing for." I thought about her, about how proud she would be if I succeeded. I thought about the future climbers who might be inspired by my journey. So I pressed on, one step at a time, until I reached the summit. And let me tell you, the view from the top was worth every moment of struggle. Sophia listened intently, her heart resonating with his words. He continued, "Life is a lot like climbing a mountain. Sometimes the storm will hit and you'll want to give up. But if you remember who or what you're climbing for, whether it's your family, your dreams, or even just the person you want to become, you'll find the strength to keep going. And when you reach your summit, you'll see that every painful step was worth it." The man stood, leaning on his cane. "I don't know what mountain you're climbing, but I can tell you this: you're stronger than you think. Don't let the storm convince you otherwise." Sophia watched as he walked away, his words echoing in her mind. For the first time in months, she felt a flicker of hope. Over the next few weeks, she began to take small steps to rebuild her life. She spent hours honing her design skills, creating a portfolio that reflected her unique vision. She reached out to her mother, opening up about her struggles and slowly mending their relationship. And instead of sending out job applications aimlessly, she started volunteering her talents to local nonprofits, designing posters and websites for causes she cared about. One of those projects caught the attention of a startup founder who was so impressed by her work that he offered her a full-time position. The job wasn't at a prestigious firm, but it gave her the chance to create meaningful designs while working with a supportive team. For the first time in years, she felt fulfilled. Sophia realized that her struggles had shaped her into someone more resilient and compassionate. She started sharing her story at community events, encouraging others to keep climbing their own mountains, no matter how daunting the journey seemed. Years later, as she stood on stage accepting an award for her contributions to the design world, she thought about the elderly man in the park. She had never seen him again, but his words had stayed with her. He had given her the push she needed to keep climbing, and for that she would always be grateful. As she looked out at the audience, she said, "Life will throw storms at you, and there will be moments when giving up feels like the easiest option. But remember, every step forward, no matter how small, brings you closer to your summit. And the view from the top, it's always worth it." This story reminds us that even when life feels impossible, perseverance and purpose can lead us to incredible heights. Keep climbing.